Tonight on Chips Talk Africa, my guest is Dr. Snowy Khoza, the CEO of the Bigen Group, one of the largest infrastructure development companies in Africa. She shares with me about their motto of doing good while doing business and how this is the key to seeing transformation on the continent. We also dive into the issue of leadership and the crucial roles it plays in seeing the turnaround we want on the continent. At the end, I'll be bringing you a prophetic word on the shift that God is bringing on this continent. Tonight on Chips Talk Africa. But before we do that, please like this video and leave a comment below. Let's know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell button and share this video with somebody else.
From Cape Town to Cairo and from Mogadishu to Dakar, this is Chips Talk Africa. And now here's your host, Chim Onyibilanma.
Hi there, and welcome to this episode. I have with me, like I said in the beginning, the opportunity to sit down again with Dr. Snowy Khoza, the CEO of the Bigen Group. Dr. Snowy, like I said in the beginning, is an outstanding woman of God in the marketplace in Africa. Dr. Snowy, you're welcome to another episode of Chips Talk.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you for the opportunity.
And thank you for honoring us by being here. The last time you were here, we talked about your story and it inspired a lot of people. Today, I want us to still talk about your story, but it's your journey with Africa.
Yes.
Your journey with Africa. And perhaps the best way to do this is to look at Bigen.
Yes.
Bigen Group, the group you lead. This is what intrigues me about Bigen, as big as it. That slogan you have, doing good while doing business. You came up with that slogan when you took over as CEO many years ago.
Yes.
Where did that come from?
You know, it came from the heart of knowing where I come from as a poor little girl and wanting to see good done to improve the quality of life of people. And therefore, doing good while doing business means that while doing business, we need to do good. Good in the delivery of the work that we do, but at the same time, do more to add value into improving the quality of life of people. So if, for example, you were supposed to put a dam, you can't just put a dam there without making sure that the communities around the dam are also getting water. You know, it's not water only for an economic activity, whether it's a mine or an industry. The communities around there, we must do good by making sure that those communities also get water.
So your eyes is not just on the bottom line, on that money and the prospering of your business, is on how much good can we do here.
Indeed.
Why doing business? You know why this is so important to me? Because I look at Africa and I think one thing that's happened is a lot of things have been done, whether aids or business, but not too much thought has been given to doing good. Not doing programs or doing or building structures, but doing good.
Africa does not have really matured infrastructure development opportunities. Because the opportunities that are there are brought in by outsiders who are not actually African, but come onto the continent and do work claiming it's social corporate investment, which is they are doing good, you know, build a classroom there, you know, put a tab there. That's not doing good while doing business, especially because infrastructure must not be for the sake of infrastructure. Because sometimes we build infrastructure and it's white elephants. You see stadiums during 2010, lots of stadiums were built, you know, roads were built, and in some countries, you know, you still find hospitals. There are some countries in my beloved continent which were built by the outsiders. You know, take for example, and I'm saying it outspokenly and not degrading anyone, what the Chinese are also doing, coming onto the continent, building infrastructure that is actually not required. But because, you know, they're coming with financing and sometimes promising aid, but taking our resources as well we can't allow that as Africans. So, and for me, my heart was to say, yes, we can work with Chinese as part of the BRICS, they are our partners, but we need to do things in according to the desires and the needs of the continent. And as we do that, we must make sure that the resources that are doing that are African resources, and we're using African methodologies, and we're making sure that the Africans themselves participate in the infrastructure build, whether by employment, whether they're contributing in terms of investments, but Africa must benefit from that in the continent.
Tell me, when you look at the continent, Africa, are we moving forward? I mean, this is very pessimistic, the way I know you're an African optimistic, and I'm also very optimistic about the continent, but sometimes you stop and you look and you say, you want to measure like in the last 20 years and the last 40 years, in your own estimation, honestly, where do you look and say, look, these are shining lights moving forward?
From the infrastructure build program side, we've got banks, development banks, such as the Africa Development Bank.
I think Dr. Akin is doing a wonderful...
He's doing an excellent job, and I'm excited
we should
that
make him president. He's been re-elected.
He's been re-elected and he's doing a good job. So his strategy of the high five for Africa, it's a dream that everyone should dream to rally around to make sure that that happens. The slowness of it is because there's a lot of brain drain. Africans, the very bright ones, the very committed ones, the very educated ones are leaving the continent. So they are out there that in the diaspora, as we say it. And I want to appeal to them, please come back. Come back to the continent. We want all of you. We want them to come back onto the continent to make a contribution so that we can fast track the improvement in the quality of lives of people. So infrastructure program is what is number one. And in that infrastructure, we're talking about transportation. We're talking about real estate. People need to be homed, not housed, homed. We need to build homes for people. We need to build retail. We need to build commercial that would facilitate the employment opportunity creation for people on the continent. We need water, we need sanitation, we need energy, all of those that are infrastructure related, whether they are social or economic infrastructure, they're critical for the continent to be able to move out of the slowness or the slumber, as I call it, the slumber that we are at.
We find ourselves in.
To wake up and see the light and say, this is the continent that we all dream about. The question is, do we need other people to come onto the continent? Yes, we need partners, but we need partners that are committed to the continent. We need them to come in here, not deplete the resources of the continent, but actually add, whether it's human resources, whether it's natural resources. And most of the time, the focus is more on the natural resources because people take it out of the continent. We need to ensure that we beneficiate. We need to ensure that we protect and we secure our resources to be able to grow this continent.
Thank you very much. You know what we're going to do? We're going to go for a short break. And when we come back, I still have questions on Africa, and I think you can help us.
Yeah.
Don't go away. We're talking to Dr. Snowy Khoza, and she's the CEO of Bigen Group. We'll be right back.
God used the stumbling blocks that you think are stumbling block as stepping stone to greatness for you.
Where is your faith? No. Where is your faith? Problem with Dr. Kenneth.
The way the church in Africa is now, what we need is revival.
We cannot correct a wrong with another wrong. We cannot correct the injustices of the past by perpetuating.
You have what it takes to make a difference. So don't give up on yourself, because God has certainly not given up on you.
Hi there, and welcome to the second part of my conversation with Dr. Snowy Khoza. Thank you so much, Dr. Snowy, for being here. Before we left, you were explaining to us, we're talking about infrastructure and Bigen and all that. And my heart is Africa, Dr. Snowy. And like we talked off camera, I sometimes sit down and say, Lord,
When? Because the vision I see God has for Africa is massive. Africa is supposed to be the bright shining light in this world. There's supposed to be a kind of transformation that will come through the effect of the gospel that will make us not just importers of things, but exporters of finished products. People who we don't have the large masses of our people in poverty. My question is what do you think is really the solution?
Yeah.
Where we can, we've talked infrastructure, but infrastructure are built by people. The one place where you feel, if we hit here and here, this is where I believe the solution will be.
You know, Pastor, for me, it's leadership. It comes to leadership. It starts with leadership, it falls, and it ends with leadership.
Totally agree.
So I think the biggest challenge that we're facing on the continent is that there are still, corruptible leaders that are running businesses and countries and so on, who we need to make sure that this journey cannot continue to be like that. We need to throw them away. We need to throw them away in a way, get them off. And I think people need to understand that they've got the power in them because they've got the vote. They need to make sure that they put leaders, ethical leaders who are incorruptible. Because I always say, as a leader in Bigen, I'm incorruptible. Because everything that we want to do in the business, we're doing it for the glory of God. And we're doing it for the glory of God because we want to improve the quality of life of people. We want to do good while doing business. So as a leader, it's important for me to understand, firstly, where my weaknesses are and deal with those weaknesses. The last thing, Pastor, for me, which is important as a leader, is to ensure that we empower young people. We empower women. Women have been left behind because every time I'm on the continent, I thought you were a man. Sometimes people call Mr. Snowy. And when I come as a woman, and then they are, you are a woman. So the perception of a woman leader on the continent also has to be improved to make sure that we empower young women, we empower young men to become future leaders. The last thing that I want to say is that it is important to realize that our date of operation and being in position must come to an end. We cannot be there and renewed, remaining there, where else young people who are waiting for us to exit so that they can come in, do succession planning, mentor people, coach them, and ensure that at a certain age, we don't have to be there. I'm retiring soon. Yes, bring in young people and teach them the ways of doing good. If you're a politician, make sure that if I'm a president, I will appoint young people in the ministries because they understand the issues that people are dealing with. The older generation, my generation, must move aside.
I want to ask something. I agree with you totally, this leadership issue. Why are people like you not the political leaders? I'm talking to you off camera. I've asked this question in different countries. When I meet, like you said, incorruptible Christian leaders in the workplace, in the marketplace, people who've gone to heights like you, leading big organizations like Bigen across the continent, a multinational, and doing good. Why are you not there contesting for presidency or for whatever?
It also goes with virtues. It also goes with a calling. Because I believe that to be a leader of people, of a country, of a business, it has to be a calling. And most of the time, it's a calling because when you get there, irrespective of what is around you, you will remain who you are. A Christian who is incorruptible. But you're getting into a network, into a net. You're throwing yourself in there to say, I'm incorruptible. The corruptors and the corruptees, they're around you. Pastor, they will push you out. And you're going in there knowing that you're not going to last. Because you're thrown in the net of the wolves who are having an agenda of benefiting themselves and their families and their loved ones and forgetting about who you are. So you can go in there, you can pray as much as you want, if the environment is corrupted and if the network is such that it's weaved to make sure that people who are ethical, people who are incorruptible can be in those positions, we won't win. So, Pastor, firstly, I would say, why even bother when you know that you will not survive in that environment?
Dr. Khoza, I hear you, even though I don't completely agree. I hear you completely. My conviction is that still God is calling a lot more people into that place, and we're going to change the atmosphere in those places because, like you said rightly before, this has to change. This whole thing of recycling this old system has to stop. But as we learned, as a woman who has a passion for Africa, I want you to look into the camera and speak to the individual, because many times we speak leadership and we think of somebody else. And even though you are young, or woman, a man, wherever you are, a Christian in Africa, what is the message you have for them in terms of the future of Africa?
Well, I said before that the future of Africa is moving, but it's moving very slow. All we need is you. You young people, men and women who have got a passion for Africa, Christians who believe that God put us here on earth to improve the quality of life of people. So I'm calling on you. Pastor says he doesn't agree with me in terms of
You not becoming president.
me not becoming president. I've got my reasons, but I believe you can. I can see a president in you.
Amen.
Whoever we are watching from, you can be in your country, in South Africa, all over the continent. Let us make sure that we go in there knowingly and being wise. See what happened to Joseph. From pit to prison to palace. So know that before you get there, you're going to end up somewhere, but God is with you. You cannot just give up. Let us continue to make sure that we change the system. We improve the quality of people in the leadership positions as well. Let's make sure that not only in business, but also in politics, Africa is waiting for you. So I'm encouraging you to say, I've done it. It's my time now to bow. But you young people, please come on board. Let's make sure that Africa becomes an Africa rising, an Africa shining, because you are coming in to improve the quality of life in this beautiful continent of Africa, my Africa.
Amen. I leave you with that challenge. Africa is in your hand. It's not about complaining about our leadership. It's about we becoming the leaders that Africa needs. Thank you so much for being on the show, Dr. Khoza.
It's my pleasure.
Hi there and welcome back. Before we go, I trust you have been challenged by that message. Now, in addition to what I've said there's a word God gave me recently for his church in Africa. And it is this: there is a shifting coming. There's a shift coming. There's a shift happening all around Africa. Some may not see it because they're overwhelmed by all the recent bad news, including the COVID pandemic. But God says he's bringing about a shifting. And even now it is happening. God is not a noisemaker. So many times he walks in obscurity, far away from the public glare. You may not see it on CNN, but those who have ears can hear it. This will be a shifting to make those things that are relevant today irrelevant. It is a shifting of relevance. Some people and some things that will not matter anymore. It is a shifting of prominence. God is going to reposition people, and the goal of this shifting is for the redemption of Africa. For a long time, the root of the problem we've had on this continent is that of the usurping of authority. The devil holds millions in spiritual darkness. The cycle of economic failure and neocolonialism has to do with the usurping of power. In 1 Kings chapter 1, I find a prophetic picture of what is to come. There, the Bible tells us that King David was old and advanced in years. So one of his sons, Adonijah, decided to exalt himself, saying, "I'll be king." He essentially usurped authority and took the throne. And because David seemed weak and finished in the eyes of many, even his trusted allies like Joab, his general for a long time, who should have known better, followed in the usurping of power.
Joab, who was supposed to defend David's interests, sold him over to Adonijah. Now, the problems of Africa has come from Joabs, our leaders, who have sold us over to usurpers to the throne, whether it be Westerners or Western interests or China. In the bid to be relevant and prominent, these leaders like Joab have chosen gain over redemption of the people. As much as we like to point fingers at the Westerners and others, even China, there is no way outsiders could rape Africa like they've done, if not for the Joabs. Joab was loyal up till now, but he saw David's time was over, so he jumped on the bandwagon of gain to stay relevant. In the church today, there are many Joabs who were faithful ministers in the past, but today have jumped onto some ungodly bandwagons so as to stay relevant and to have gain. And by their acts, they have sold the people of God who they are supposed to shepherd over to usurpers. Joabs are men and women that God gave platform, but who sold out the people instead of using those platforms or powers for the interest of the people. In South Africa, for example, the Zondi Commission on State Capture has been going on for some time, and it has been exposing the misdeeds of political leaders who the people trusted with a platform, but who instead used those positions to sell the people away. The same thing is happening now in Nigeria and around Africa. Leaders are using their platforms to sell the people they're supposed to serve. Think about that. This is the same thing that happened in the days of slave trade, and it is happening now today in our nation and in our churches. But God says there is a shift coming. Hallelujah. There's going to be a massive shift of leadership in the church and in the political arena in the coming days. You will see. God is going to make sure that the right men and women get to the throne. Just like in the story of David in 1 Kings chapter 1, God made sure that Solomon, the right man, got on the throne. In the same way, shift is coming because Africa must be saved. Africa must arise. Africa must shine. Because of this, God is committed, and the zeal of the Lord will bring this to pass. In this story, David seems like he was done for, as if he was gone, but he was not done. He might have been silent, but he was still the king, and only him decided who sits on the throne. God may seem silent in Africa, as so many usurpers who are running around as leaders, milking the people, but God is not done. There is a shift of leaders coming. I like the way the shift happened here in this chapter 1 of 1 Kings, and it is a clear picture of what God is going to do in Africa. Adonijah had all the army and great men and horses and chariots, and you would have thought that David would have first planned, when David wanted to restore it to Solomon, he would have first planned to pull all of this away from him and get all those things before he restored it to Solomon. But instead, he asked them to anoint Solomon, to put him on his mule and proclaim him as king as they paraded him around. Wow. God's focus is not first of all on getting the Joabs and Adonijahs in Africa, the first leaders, to stop their jamboree or to step down before he raises his new leaders. Don't ever imagine that these bad leaders will have to go away first before God raises his new leaders. No. God is anointing men and women now and is establishing them to take over, even while these Adonijahs and Joabs are still seemingly reigning. Some of you listening to me are the Solomons that God is raising now all across Africa to take back the throne, to be placed in leadership for the sake of the redemption of his people. But some of you may be distracted because what God has given you to take you to that throne is like a mule, the donkey, like David gave Solomon the donkey. You may be tempted to despise it because the Adonijahs have all the prominence. They have all the prominent men, all the chariots, all the horses. Listen to me. Solomon sat on that mule even though his elder brother had all the mighty men and chariots and horses, and that mule took him to prominence. The shift happened because in the word of the king there is power. Listen to me. I'm speaking to someone who is there now. God has given you mandates. He has given you things to do, innovations, business to start, churches to plant, courses to pursue, calling to preach the gospel. And in the stage where you are now, all you have seemed to be like a mule, very relevant. Listen, just like there was a shift of relevance from Adonijah and his crowd to Solomon on the mule, so too God is working out a shifting for those who will faithfully take the journey on the mule that he has put them on. Just be faithful. Just do what God has asked you to do. Just stay on that mule God has put you and obey him completely. What is in your hand? What has God given you to do? What vision did you see? Does it look like a mule that you have as your resources now? Don't stop, because God is shifting things and is going to use you for the redemption of Africa. Wow. God is shifting things in Africa. Is going to be raising many new leaders with a heart for God, a love for the people, and a wisdom to make Africa work. Listen, Africa will work. Salvation and holiness will roll like a mighty river throughout this continent, producing authentic followers of Christ, not mere churchgoers. Our streets will no longer be filled with churches and corruption at the same time. No. Instead of corruption, there will be God-fearing leadership. There will be effective governance and development everywhere. Hallelujah. Our countries will no longer be described as having so many resources, natural resources, and yet overflowing with poverty. Instead of the waste and plundering of our resources, there will be good stewardship and abundance, because God is bringing about a shift, and that shift is coming out across Africa, a shift of leadership. New leaders are rising, and I believe that you are one of them. I'm excited, and I trust that you receive this prophetic word with faith and act on it, that you believe what God is speaking to your heart, joining us to make it possible. Let me know what God is saying to you and doing in you through what you're hearing from me. Write me, contact me today with the contact on your screen. I would love to reply to you and discuss with you about what God is placing on your heart. Thank you for joining us this week. I'll see you same time next week, same station. God bless you. Bye.
Please like this video and leave a comment below. Let's know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell button and share this video with somebody else.